Hey there, everyone. Hello, hello. It's Dawn coming to you on a Saturday afternoon from Sedona. And today I have a message that's actually a little bit, I would say, intimidating. So let me just connect with how I want to introduce this. So I pulled a card and I want to share it. But I want to say it in a way that's really impactful before you see the intensity of the image. It's a question, where in your life, hey Susan, hi, where in your life is it time to let go of those old, spinning, cycling thoughts that do not serve you? Hey Donna, hi. So again, where in your life is it time for you to let go of those old thoughts, the ideas, maybe they're cycling through, that no longer serve you? When we keep alive in our minds the wounds of the past, we script the inevitability of those wounds coming forward into the future. And it is not, thanks Susan, it is not really a good formula for success. So let me do an illustration here. Let me give an illustrative point. Let's say there was a time in your past where you were fired unjustly. In the fairly recent past, in the last 6 months to 3 years, say. And in your mind, you repeatedly, every day, every few days, several times a day, you're replaying something about this being fired or laid off or made redundant in your head. And you're with your mind fighting that person, telling them who they think they are or what you think of them, and doing this whole battle over and over and over in your mind, even though it happened 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 3 years ago. What you're doing is you've taken something that actually no longer exists because it's in the past and activating it completely. Hey, Michael, welcome. Activating it completely in your being in the now. And what that's doing is creating the frequency that will unfold into more things to be upset about in the future. It doesn't mean that you're going to get fired over and over and over again, although that might be a pattern. But this quality of holding on to old thoughts that don't serve you and repeating them over and over again, this activates a frequency of battle energetically or warring in the mind. So here's another way this can happen, and I say this with the utmost respect. If there's someone who has died in your life, a dear, dear loved one, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a child, and it happened a long time ago, and yet you hold on to the suffering of having lost that person, you are living in the now with the thoughts and the memories that charge your emotional body with something that happened a long time ago. Not only in the spirit world do you not set them fully free, you do not set yourself free to live. Now, I understand that it's very, very painful to lose a loved one. Deeply, deeply painful. And it's a process of coming to terms with that and healing, and it's not done overnight. But what I'm talking about is when you hold those old thoughts in your mind for so long. If only I had kept them home that day. If only such and such. If only such and such. These things do not serve you. And what they do is they set you up for unhappiness in the future, disease, suffering, etc. Okay, so again, the question that I started with, where in your life are you still holding on to thoughts that need to be released? So now I'm going to show you the card. See, I told you it was pretty dramatic. This card is called Ruin, and it is the 10 of Swords. So swords, remember, swords are mind and thought. And when we have repeating the same things over and over and over again, they turn in. It's like our thoughts turn in and attack us. So look at this. All these swords have just turned in and attacked him. And there's this sort of shadowy woman witnessing the way he has come to ruin with the abundance of negative thought forms that have basically turned in and, killed him. So it's an ominous card, but this entire deck, for those of you who watch me every day, you probably know by now that this entire deck has pretty intense images. So if you respond to images, I just want to remind you that one is really quite intense for the Ten of Swords. So let's just look at this, just the 10 and swords now, just so you understand it again and how you could apply this to your life in the area of thoughts and thoughts that do not serve you. So the 10 is when we are like maxed out. We're like, it's like the cup runneth over, but which is the case for the suit of cups. But for the suit of swords, when we have too much thinking, what happens? We're cut off from our feelings. And if you're interested in that, please watch yesterday's video on feelings. It's a super powerful one, super important one. So too much thought separates us from feelings. That's that whole concept of creating through the masculine principle without considering the greater context. Too much thought keeps us up in the middle of the night. Have you ever had that? Where you're up and, I've had that many times in my life. I wake up and then the mind goes thinking, and it's just sort of maddening sometimes, like, just shut up already. So too much thoughts. Too much thought keeps us out of action sometimes. Too much thought can find us inventing other people's motives, feelings, intentions, which is an act of incredible violence, by the way. So again, swords, remember, if you take the word sword and you take that S and you put it at the end, you got words. And words can hurt. You know that old saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but names will never hurt me? Well, I'm calling BS on that, because until we get to a spiritual state where we're really in that active compassion state all the time, words can hurt. And the younger we are, the more the words can hurt, because they, especially under 7 years old, because we're just taking it all in and we're perceiving things from a very narcissistic perspective. And I don't mean that in a mean way. For children under 7 years old, the world is all about them. Their world is very small, especially under like 5. So words can very much do deep, deep damage. I have seen I have had many clients, and I myself have been through a deeply, I would call verbally abusive relationship. Very much the stinging swords of cruel words. And of course, those cruel words can turn in on ourselves too. So how do we talk to ourselves about ourselves? Are we kind? Are we compassionate? Are we forgiving? Or are we cracking the eternal whip, demanding our own perfection? At times it's unreasonable. And again, just to kind of complete, I don't know if I completed that thought about judging other people's motives. So I have, in the years past, I've been guilty of this. I've been guilty of inventing other people's motives. Well, she's probably just doing that because blah, blah, blah. Or, he thinks he's all that. Or, I don't know, you fill in the blanks. It's easy to do. I was raised in an environment in the United States and the East Coast where that was sort of common behavior. And then I started being on the receiving end of it and becoming aware of being on the receiving end. And I'll tell you what, this is one of the things that I really find, like, I will draw a line in the sand and end a relationship with no quarter. And that's probably my own work to do. It is my own work to do. However, When someone starts inventing me and telling other people who I am, what my motives are, why I'm doing what I'm doing, that is an act of incredible mental violence, because it's this mind that thinks it knows and it doesn't, which is really different than the discerning, feeling heart. Because when we go into our feelings, then we can discern and we can also have compassion. So we might speculate. We might say, wow, I've really seen this person in my life seems to be, the interactions look like this. And that feels to me like maybe ABC is what's motivating her or him. However, that's really different than me standing judgment against that person, or worse, gossiping about that person to somebody else and saying, well, her real issue is that she's really jealous, or whatever it is. So that these are all ways that too much thought, too much negative thought, too much unmanaged thought without conscious awareness, without witnessing what we're thinking about, leads to ruin. 10, too much, overabundance, swords, thought, mind, words, disconnected from feelings. Ultimately, all of that stuff turns back in on ourselves. Okay, so there's one more piece I'm feeling and seeing here that I want to share, seeing in my mind's eye, which is that, when you judge someone, right? So there's that beautiful saying that says, when you point your finger at someone, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. And so when we stand in judgment of someone else without compassion and mercy, Goddess Kuan Yin, Goddess Tara, these archetypal energies of compassion and mercy, the Holy Spirit, when we judge someone without compassion and mercy, we are disconnected from feelings. We're in our head, words, thoughts, too much thought. And that judgment comes ultimately back to us. And in the times we are living in right now, sisters and brothers, during this great awakening, what that means is that what we send out is coming back very quickly, because we're in a much faster cycle of manifestation. So the more our minds are toxic with judgment, hate, anger, overanalysis, disconnection from our feeling states, from our body, from our intuition, our emotions, the more we create things that we don't really want, and it's accelerating. So if you're relating to anything I say here, or if you have some feedback for me on this, please share. I really would love your feedback. I don't get much. I get some, and those of you who share with me every day, I super appreciate it. But some of you are watching regularly, and I'm not hearing from you. Thank you, Susan. To you too, my dear, from across the planet. But some of you, you're watching regularly, and I'm glad, and I do hope you're getting value out of it. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing here, I'd love to hear from you in a private message. Go ahead and private message me. And let's see, anything else? I think that's it for today. I wish you all bright blessings for a beautiful day or evening or morning, wherever you are. And until tomorrow, much love, and really think about how you can release those thoughts that no longer serve you. Mwah. Thanks, Susan.